Wood revealed the Tory Wet's real agenda in a now deleted tweet over the weekend, where he said the free market experience is over. It's been a low point in our party's great history. The reset begins. The reset begins. Neil Oliver. Is democracy being dismantled before our very eyes in favour of the World Economic Forum agenda?
Hi, Dan. Yeah. I was going to say we're looking at democracy in the rear view mirror, but it's a lot further behind us than that. It's over the hill in the rear and out of sight. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves in a way that I think it's important to point out that what's happening at the moment, this excitement around Rishi Sunak and the rest, only serves the guilty, by which I mean all of those responsible for the catastrophe that is the context for these cringe-making amateur dramatics. We have to ask ourselves how we ended up in this Armageddon of the economy and the rest. And I think it's vitally important to point out that people all over, panellists of yours who might remain nameless, who screeched about the need to lock down sooner and for longer, who howled their demonisation of all opposition. So many people are to blame directly or indirectly for the economic and social holocaust in which we find ourselves. You know, for sure, the Conservative Party are in power, and they were holding the parcel when the music stopped, but they were cheered on every step of the way, egged on, goaded by all of the MPs of all colours, Labour, SNP, Liberal, the mass of the media and the rest. It's too late now for all of them to go crying to their mothers about what a mess we're in. I mean, talk about collective responsibility. Hypocrisy is too small a word for the betrayal of it all. All those loudmouths who cheer-led the masters of disaster are as much to blame as those they now seek to castigate. You know, so here we are. Here we find ourselves in this disastrous situation, but not one of them in that chamber did so much as stand up and say, wait a minute, let's ask some questions. They either called, and I'm talking here about Conservatives, Labour, SNP, Liberal, the rest of them, every single person you can name, with a few honourable exceptions, they were all there calling for the same stuff, trying to outdo one another in their demands for harder and longer. Yeah, and anyone with soup for brains could look on and see what was going to happen. And this is the situation in which we find ourselves. And now we've got to look on at this farce of what at the moment the Conservatives are doing. But it's no better and no worse than what Labour or anybody else would be doing, because these people are unfit.
Well, no, I think it's probably slightly better, but I understand what you mean. I think if it had been Labour in charge, they would have been in lockstep with the zero COVID ambitions and gone even further. But, I mean, it's sort of cold comfort, you might say, Neil Oliver. But look, I want to know, though, what you think folks should do, Neil. Because remember, there are lots of good, honest folk who are watching this show, many of whom who have been Conservative Party members, Neil, and they're not necessarily thinking, oh, we're going to vote for someone who's going to solve all of this. But sometimes, Neil, we've got to go for the least worst option, OK? Now, we've failed when it comes to this particular leadership contest, because actually we've got Jeremy Hunt in number 11 Downing Street. That was the worst option, Neil. So what do folk do who thought and genuinely believed that being a member of the Conservative Party gave them a small element of control, and that's now just been wrestled away?
Yeah, I mean, let's ask ourselves, first of all, how that even happened. Jeremy Hunt, who was arguably the least popular, how did it come to... We seem to have just allowed for the fact that he was able to waltz into Downing Street and into number 11. How on earth was someone so unpopular able somehow to do that? Who invited him in through that door? Talk about, ask the right one in. But when you say what should be done, I feel profoundly, in my soul, that and it's in some ways it's a huge thing, but in other ways it's a very small thing. That what people have to do is to remember the power that we collectively as individuals hold. All of this that we're being presented with, call it what you will, call it a pantomime, call it a farce, call it see it for what it actually is, which is the maneuverings of those who want a one world government, the globalists, those who want to centralise control, as was evidenced there in that tweet by Tobias Ellwood, who said, free market economy is over, let's go for the reset and centralist organisation. Those of us who are opposed to that, who see that for what it is, if we stand up in just enough numbers, and it's not even huge numbers that are required to tip the balance, and we say no, not in our name, this is not what we want, then however unstoppable it appears that the globalists are, in effect, their attempt at control, their would-be totalitarianism, evaporates like the heat haze mirage that it actually is. Nothing that is being presented to us is real. It's a collective dream, and it's not a dream that many of us share. All we have to do is to remember that we as individuals at any moment gather together as the sovereign individuals that we are and say, no, this is wrong, we don't want this. And we are not going to accept this. And this is absolute nonsense that we're looking on at. It's another distraction. Remember everyone, that all of these people, Rishi Sunak, Jeremy Hunt, Penny Mordaunt, all of these people were roundly rejected. They were unwanted, even by their own party membership.
I know. And now
that is all that people have to remember. And now there they are assuming power.
Indeed.
And all that's required is that we say, no, we do not recognise this. And we have to do this with light hearts and with smiles on our faces. It's time to erase the gloom, lift our heads up and say, no, we don't need to be downtrodden. We don't need to wear this as a yoke on our shoulders. Just stand up and shake it off and say, don't be ridiculous. We deserve more and better than this.